Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. We are
going.
on the wire, okay? Now, I have one thing to say before we start. Today, we're going to be discussing a very interesting subject, okay? We're going to be talking about love. And the song we just sang is a fascinating song. And the song said, I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the mind of God. And what that means is we're an expression of God here to do God's work. And that's an interesting idea, and do we really understand that?
Do you want to try to fix it? Madeline says it keeps flipping on its own.
I keep putting that up and the next one comes up.
Yeah.
What
You
do
want
we
to try to
want to
fix
do?
it, or you keep going and I'm going to just...
There are no accidents in life. Everything is already pre-planned. Spirit says we're going to do it this way. So anyway, I keep looking for metaphors because what is happening is, how do we understand something that's really so simple but yet goes so complicated by the ego mind? Because the ego mind wants to make it so complicated that we don't try, which is a premise that we have to get. So the truth is, the first step in unity principles, number one, is that we are an expression of God, period. And if we understand that, the first book of the Bible says you were created in the image and after likeness of God. Now that doesn't mean physically, that means spiritually, because Jesus said God is spirit, must be worshipped in spirit and in truth. So the physical form is not the ultimate reality, it's the spiritual form. Now, in the spiritual form, it's energy. Everybody get it? Energy, which means a frequency at a certain energy. So everything is energy. Now, I don't know about you, but in my house, we have a thing called Wi-Fi. Anybody have one? And we have TVs hooked up to it. We have phones hooked up to it. We have, we can't forget about Alexa hooked up to it. And we got printers hooked up to it. In our house, we have, 4 TVs hooked up to it? At least 3. So everything is online, in the air, which is energy being broadcast at frequency, at a given frequency, and then the let's just call it the device that picks up the energy translates it down into something physical. So everybody get that? Now, as weird as it sounds, that's what we're dealing with. Now, what are you? You're a frequency receiver of God's love. Period. Okay? And what's interesting about it, we have been given choice. One of the big issues is, as a child of God, we have the choice to do what we want to do. And that's where the problem has occurred. Okay? Because when we came into this existence, we had a code of God is good and all is well. And the question is, well, if we're made in God's image, how come we aren't perfect? Well, that's a presupposition on our part. And the world has taught us that and sent a code, you're not good enough. You know, you're a female and you can't do that. And you're too old now, and you don't have hair on your head. Whatever it is, there's all that corruption and codes again. So the frequencies go, yes, okay, yes. And we accept that and live that out. Everybody know? Now, it's so deeply embedded in us, we're not aware of it. It's called innate programming. Got it? Now, where are we with this? Order. We've been Bowers been putting up the 12 powers of unity. It's put together by Charles Fillmore. It's also over in CSL. Okay? And one of the powers that we're celebrating in September is order, which means everything works. So everybody got it? Wouldn't it be neat to have everything in order in your life? Everything's perfect. You're happy, you have plenty to eat, you don't have any money issues to worry about. You're healthy, happy, and whole. Which is that's a nice affirmation. I'm complete and whole, just as I am right now today. That's called order. And how do we get order? The intelligence of the universe is expressing through each of us. And how is it the energy expressed through us? Through the frequencies, through God, which is an energy transmitted to us. Okay? And how does that energy transmit? It's called love, L-O-V-E. Now, we want to make love sloppy and slurpy, and we use the term lust, which translates into the physical part. And isn't it fun as part of the pleasures that we experience in the physical world? But we're talking about an energy which is at a much higher frequency. The Heart Math Institute out in California has been measuring that energy, and they've been able to measure it around us in a halo of about 8 foot in diameter. Okay, but it's so fine that they lose track of it. Okay, however, it's there, and the intelligence of the universe expressing through each of us. So, what does the intelligence of the universe know? What's it know? Everything, yeah. It's like, how do I tie my shoe? How do I talk to my wife? How do I interact with the next door neighbor? It's all these questions, and they're already part of the coding that's already taken care of, but the world has said, well, you gotta go get an education. And you have to live in a certain part of town. And you have to be white or black or whatever culture you're in. And we have all these standards that say, here's what you need to do. Okay. So we bought into all those programs. Everybody there? Now, it amazes me how deeply embedded, because I've been playing this stuff for years. I decided to get, after I left my corporate career, I decided I had to get educated. So some of you know I went for a doctorate in divinity, which you don't know that I spent an extra, I forget, whatever, it doesn't matter, but so much time, and I got a doctorate of metaphysical science. Isn't that impressive? And what did it mean? More knowledge here, but did it help me connect with spirit? And the answer is no. Anybody remember the fifth unity principle? Basically, all this stuff is good, but you gotta use it. And it doesn't mean anything unless you practice it and do it. Now, we have lots of issues in life. One of them is happening, and I've been dealing with it for a couple of weeks. Madeline's tired of hearing about it. We even had a discussion this morning. And it's called innate or implicit bias. Everybody familiar with that? We have been trained to be careful in life. We all have that personal radar. It's called safety. And I'm watching everything that happens, making sure I'm safe and that I'm going to get fed and everything's going to work out. Which means I don't trust spirit, that part of me. I trust the physical to provide. So I have to put money aside for retirement. I have to make sure I have enough food on me to get fed tomorrow. I have to make sure that I have a job that works well. Everybody get it? Whatever your shtick is, and whatever you've been trained to do is what you do. And the radar's always looking. Danger, danger, danger. Okay? And that creates a bias which we're not even aware of. Okay? Let me give you an example that they are sneaky. Anybody here, how do you feel when you're driving on the interstate out here at 80 miles an hour and somebody's in front of you at 60 miles an hour? What's your reaction?
Frustration.
Huh?
Frustration.
Frustration, yeah. But I have a bias. Now, I was told not to share this, but I'll share.
Thank you, Robert.
But you gotta look at this stuff, and I'm sitting there, yeah, I have that, yeah, I have that. It's another one, there's another one. And if I have somebody in front of me that won't move, she's gotta be an older female. Yes or no? No, I'm telling you that. See, that's my bias, and that's what, somewhere back in life, that happened. Okay?
He did say he's from Philly.
Yes, he's from Philly.
That's terrible. But there are biases. Do you know, honestly, do you want to hear some more? I have tidal reference, yes, and I use it around here, but when I'm out in public, I don't use the word reference. Why? Because there are biases of people out there of how reference act. And I don't want to go there. Okay? Now, is that smart? I never know. It's my bias that I can't do that openly in the world, okay? What else?
Like when you drink wine at a wedding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do officiate weddings occasionally, and I had for a long story with this guy had asked me to marry him, and it was a long, big wedding, huge wedding, and it was they served wine. Now, I wasn't aware, but there were some, let's just say, folks from Christian religion who were there, okay? And Madeline and I afterwards had wine. Because I will drink wine, and to me it's not a error. We don't use the word sin, we use the word error. Okay? And we were frozen out. Okay? Nobody would talk to us.
Wow.
And we were sitting there laughing about it, okay? Now, is that a bias? Yeah. So how do we react to biases, and what biases do we all have? Okay, something's happened to me now. I am now a mature, older, white man. What does that do? All of a sudden, I'm being biased. I'm being biased against. Okay? As a minister, I attend classes online for all kinds of things, and I have to be aware of racial issues, gender issues, transphobic, etc. And I attend those classes. And I was on an LGBTQ class, and I spoke up. Does anybody know the bias against an elderly white male? I was frozen out. You can't talk, and you don't have the right to talk. Okay, so how does somebody that is a black child talk if they're told something in a racial issue? So I bring it up. It's there, it's part of everything we do. The Jewish situation right now, what's going on there? I still haven't been able to figure out how you can tell somebody's Jewish unless they say they're Jewish. Anybody agree? Okay, really? And what else biases are out there? Oh, political. Anybody familiar with that? And we just sang a song that said, I am the hands of God, I am the mind of God, and everything I do is God. And the only way I bring divine order into being is expressing the intelligence of the universe through me. And what the heck am I doing with it if I have a bias against you because I don't like the way you hold your hair, or I don't like the color you wear, or I don't like the color of your skin? And it's sneaky. Because I'm embedded, see, you guys, some of you are horrified when I say, I have a bias against older women driving. Yes? But do you understand, the universe is in balance when we have order. How does the universe go into order and balance? We don't put out unbalancing ideas. Did you understand that the energy of the universe is your thinking and my thinking together, creating our daily experience? Now, I can influence my personal experience, but what's happening in the greater world, the universe, is happening as a conglomeration of all the thoughts going out there. Isn't that great? That's exciting, but that's what's happening. So my experience of the world is my willingness to bring in the intelligence of the universe and apply it realistically. And I can't do that, in my opinion, when I'm biased about something and I don't know it. Okay? Now, it's easy to talk about, and it's uncomfortable. I am horrified at some of the stuff that's coming up in my consciousness. Okay, I couldn't believe it when I'm biased. There's another bias. It really upsets me when people don't get the simple message that we share. And they continue, it's like my family is still back there in the old ages. But I'm biased. But I learned that bias, okay, so these biases are there, we're not aware of them. And that's what we call implicit or innate biases. And the ego's going to say, no, that's a bunch of I was gonna say crap, I said stuff, thank you. So we're dealing with, we're dealing with issues that are endemic within who we are, and we're dealing with things that Jesus said 2,000 years ago, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, but love the Lord thy God. So there's 3 commandments there: love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. Now, I've had some fun here. See my notes? They're exciting. Order, that's good. Look, see, that's the thing that I did for the newsletter this week. And look at all the stuff, okay? I'm not going to do all of it. But it's interesting to me. It said, love is the foundation for a thriving life. And it says, in Unity we teach that love is the ultimate creative force in the universe. Is that true? That's what we teach, yes?
Yes.
And it says, it's the divine energy that binds us to one another and to God. It's the invisible telegraphs that's everywhere present, that energy that we are all connected. Can everybody get an idea? In your house, there's literally an invisible connection for everything in your house that brings it into harmony and lets it give you the football game. Cowboys are playing today, aren't they? Anyway, see, all that stuff is connected through energy at a frequency that it is involved in, and it brings information. Is it too much to stretch and understand that the same thing's happening with the energy that we call God? And the word God is just a word that describes something that it's occurring. And there's all kinds of words. It doesn't matter what the word is. It could be Allah, whatever it is. I think I shared with you, we had a friend for a long time who was mentally disabled that used to call God George because it was convenient. He liked somebody called George, so he put the name George in. Okay? He was an amazing guy. He actually healed himself of his dyslexia and everything else and became a rather interesting individual. Who was Jewish, which I forgot about. So do you understand? We are in the world fighting the energies of the world, and I am encouraging, and we are each encouraging each other to return to the Father's house. The prodigal son's journey, returning to the Father's house. And we sooner or later need to, in the metaphor, give it up, decide we don't want to eat corn in the fields with the pigs, or the hogs, or whatever, it's swine, excuse me, and we go back to the Father's house. And before we even get near the Father, he runs and gives us a ring and puts a cloak on and says, welcome home. And then holds a banquet and tells everybody, shut up, my son's home. That's the story. Did everybody get it? And the biases, I'm understanding now. This is why I'm nutty this morning. That the biases are the things that are keeping me from that because they're there. Now, anybody remember Ho'oponopono? I don't know whether you have that in your wheelhouse. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian prayer conversation. Joe Vitale wrote a book, I forget the name of the book, but anyway, it discusses that. And he says that the mind always needs to be cleaned. And what he's saying is that we have all of this stuff that's accumulated, and we need to slowly do what Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay? So to renew the mind, we need to get rid of the old stuff, which we don't think is there, because I'm perfect, I'm just so good, I'm spiritual. Okay? I have another one on that one. But anyway, and clean it out. And it's a Hawaiian conversation to do that, and it's 4 phrases. And it said, I love you, which creates the energy of God. I'm sorry, which says I'm sorry. And it's a generalized thing. See, I don't know what I'm doing that's wrong. I don't know. Anybody have thoughts you wonder where they come from and you don't like them? I'm sorry. And then, please forgive me, talking to Spirit. And then the last phrase is, thank you for doing that. Now, And this is just, this is how I was telling Valerie does the slides during on Saturday. And then I put things together, so late last night I said, yeah, that's Ho'oponopono. So we're gonna call her, 9 or 10 o'clock. But you see, that cleaning out is what's necessary, and it's like anything else. We must do things on purpose. It's called the intention. Remember the intention in the house? The house would not have started if I hadn't said, okay, I'll move. Okay? And that started a chain of events that occurred. And how many chain of events in my life or your life do I need to get through to get back to the original Christ self that we're working toward? The kingdom of heaven is where? Within. It is within, and it's up to me to find it, to get back to it. So it's a spiritual situation, it's not a physical situation. So I can be good and I can give to the animal hospitals and all kinds of things, but it's still on a physical level, it's not a spiritual level. Now, how do you express love? And I've really been working on this. Does anybody have an idea? Because love is no thought. Okay? So it's really not doing something. In other words, I'm going to pick on Kathleen because she can handle it. But if I look at Kathleen and I say, you know what? I'm not sure about her cooking. Okay? What am I doing?
You could be hurting her.
Yeah. And the truth is, I'm attacking her psychologically as a human being. Now, what is my issue for cooking? So I have there's nothing to do with Kathleen. It's only something that I don't happen to like the type of food that she makes. Now, that's not true, because I eat everything, okay? That's one of my issues. I'm going to have to forgive myself, okay? So it's the idea of stepping back. In politics today, yes, I'm going to go there now. Okay? We've got people with ideas. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you which ones, but I disagree violently with some of the ideas. Some of them, there's no understanding or any intellectual background in what they're talking about, some of them. They don't understand the really, let's say, economics. They don't understand how people act. Okay? However, I can disagree with the idea, but the individual is still a child of God. So it's not an attack on the individual, it's a disagreement with the idea. So if I deal with facts and keep my mouth shut and send love, what am I doing? Now, if I'm upset and I get angry and if I talk to Cherry about Kathleen, what am I putting into the universe?
Disorder.
Yeah. And that's all I need to know. And so that's simple. Now, how many times do I get upset when somebody doesn't do what I want? And we attack the person, not what is, I'm not getting something I want. That's the issue. And the person really is still that person. And I'm the one that made the judgment, I didn't get it, and I'm angry about getting it, but I blame it on the individual. So that's that stepping into love and letting it go in the work environment. Okay? It seems sometimes people are against me. Okay. I go back to my corporate world. I don't want to go there. But at the time, you get so deeply involved in it, you take it seriously, and it's an attack on me personally. No, it's not. I can look at it as somebody has a great deal of passion about something, so they're expressing love. I disagree with the idea, but I appreciate them as human beings. Now, those are the advanced ideas that we talk about at the spiritual level. Here's another idea. Some of you know I've been working on a thing called Choose Only Love. The author of this is channeling Jesus. Interesting, he's an Argentinian who used to be in a class with the current Pope. So a really heavy Catholic individual who has now in the spirit. And I wanted to share with you a couple of things, because one of these really, really affected me. Okay, now I'm getting a lot in, everybody, I remember I warned you, you better be open to what we're talking about today. Okay? It says, this is not, okay. And this is the words of Jesus, consisting of loving all that arises in our present human lives, arises. That is bringing love to all we experience, to leave no room for doubt. He lists that all means images, feelings, memories, emotions, thoughts, sensations, and everything you could possibly think about. Those are the words that came from Jesus. Okay? This is not a simple description of one spiritual path among many. It is rather the hallmark of the new. We are creating a new world. This is radical thinking. Everybody think about that. If we could get everybody doing this, what would happen to the world? Okay? And so, now, and then just, I'm going to read this. I don't like to read things, but I'm going to read it. The knowledge I share here has led me to become aware of the multiple mechanisms that we so often use as individuals as a universal family to spiritually bypass things. This refers to the tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved, uncomfortable emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished development tests.
I didn't understand a word you said.
Right.
I didn't understand a word you
That's
said.
because you really want me to say it. I have a bias.
I have a bias?
I have a bias. See, again, we have biases. Okay? This is one reason I don't talk about this stuff. Are we ready to hear it? Okay? It's really interesting. It really is. Okay? What this is saying, Alan, is we use spiritual terms and spiritual ideas, and we think we're so spiritually advanced that that doesn't matter to us. It's something that we don't have to deal with anymore. Okay?
Got
And put it in words. And we become so sanctified and so spiritual that we're above it. Does that help?
Mhm.
We're really digging into this heavy spiritual thing. Yes.
So it's really interesting to me, like when I think about like my innate biases and things that I
Yeah.
believe or not believe, and some of the stuff that comes up. And if you think about, so Greg and I were watching football yesterday, and looking at UT Stadium and how full it was of fans and everything, and they were playing Mississippi State, and the announcers are talking about these kids coming from all these different schools and everything. Well, growing up in Austin, like I'm a huge UT fan, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so what do I think about A&M? What do I think about,
Yes.
and all this stuff comes up in my head, right? Because I have friends, he's an Aggie, she's a Longhorn, and I've heard their conversations about each other, about the schools and stuff. So you can either buy into that, right? That they're not enough, or that they're the bad guy or whatever. And that's just one circumstance in which we've been taught that the other
Yep.
is not us, or that the other isn't as good as we are. And I think that when you're aware that those thoughts come up, are you aware? Do you stop and question? Do you say, is that a helpful thought or is that a hurtful thought?
I know.
And so what you just
We're right back
read,
there.
what you just read was what happens if I don't question where my beliefs come from, and are they helpful, are they valid, or are they harmful?
Yeah. These biases are amazing. You brought up the biases geographically. Do you understand the South and the North are still fighting? I grew up in the Northeast, and when we moved to the South, we lived in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. Anybody familiar with that town? I was sent in to be the plant manager of a plant that had been charged with discrimination, and I had no idea what I was getting into, none. And I walked in, the first thing I tried to do was change the assigned parking spots. And it blew up because it was based on racial conversation. And you couldn't allow the women to walk past all the black men because they would be upset. Okay, and I was told, boy, you don't understand. The term boy was used. So, you know, now I'm sharing some experiences. So you've been there, done this. And when we moved to the Northwest, I had never been around Indian culture. Okay, so things are different. And we all have biases. That's the point. And the key to it is, how does it affect me and am I aware of it? Okay, I'm telling you, my house has been a turmoil for a day just looking at it, okay? And do I really want to look at it? And yes, if I'm going to become that individual who has returned to the Father's house, I need to be aware of it. And my intention is to clean it up. And I'm asking you to look at that. And am I taking a chance doing this today? Yes. Okay. That was probably because we had an issue in another location. Okay. And we don't realize it. Everybody take a deep breath. Okay? Thank you for showing up today.
Wonderful.
Okay? And the truth is, this spiritual life that we talk about, it takes guts to really look at it and be it. Okay? And, you know, stop and, if you ever understand that a lot of the Christian faith today is based upon Paul. And Paul is the guy that spent time in prison because of what he believed. And he wrote most of his books in the New Testament while he was in prison. And he talks about the biases. He talks all through there about his biases. And they did this to me there, and he's open about it. Okay? So all this stuff is in writing. And Jesus said that you should love thy neighbor as thyself. And what's coming through today is, hey, take a look at where we're going. So the question is, am I willing to investigate it and make it part of my life? And maybe, and the idea is we can't become better, we're already Christian beings, okay? But we can leave behind this stuff that we've accumulated that's incorrect. I think I could go on and on.
The doctor's office, the little saying that she had up front is behind you now.
Oh,
That's nice.
when you make a stand, it's interesting what happens. I don't know. I haven't talked to her. I don't know anything about it. But when we walked into the doctor's office, we do normal things like go to doctors. And I had a physical, okay? And I walked in for the appointment, and that was on the
Chalkboard, the whiteboard.
whiteboard in front of the receptions. And I looked at it, and I said, you gotta be kidding, where did that come from? She gave me a source, and I said, do you understand what you're saying? That's the key to the whole thing. What does it say? Somebody read it for me. I want you to read it.
I am pouring love into the lives of those I meet.
What would that mean? Okay? I'm going to read something else because I'm dyslexic when I read. Here it is.
Do you have a bias?
What?
Do you have a bias?
I have.
She just told you once that, and now you're hanging on to it.
Yeah.
She got me. Love has the power to make all things new. Therefore, the temporal plane, this plane, it's a temporary plane, can be renewed through the divine embrace of love. Do you understand what that says? It says that's the answer. And that simple phrase that receptionist had on that chart is like, okay, what would happen if everything I see, everything I do, I look at it with love, and if I can't look at it with love, I go on. Okay? And I'm realizing how much I don't do that. That's all I'm saying. See, I did admit it. Okay, anybody else? Okay, can you feel the energy in the room? There is an energy. It's kind of like, oh my God, yes. So thank you, I love you dearly. The kingdom of heaven is within you. That's us, it's not them, it's not sometime, somewhere, it's now. And as we build that house, we're building a church too, right? So I appreciate you very much and I love you. I'm done. What's next?